It's Joshua here. It's almost midnight hour here on the Wednesday, August the 12th. Just came back from Johnny's, and the Lord revealed, like He has one and every time that we come together, dozens upon dozens and dozens of times. Every time Johnny and I come together, God shows up, and just found out that like every time we come together, we come and experience. We come together in heavenly places. That's what I've just come to understand. And because some of the lessons that we've been going through, and that's the reason why He raises us up into heavenly places, is by learning to the lessons of how to walk, how to maintain a walk. If we can realize, and this is very important in the days ahead, and what I'm sharing with you is a lesson learned from the Lord that's going to keep you out there, whether you're part of the Patriot group or some other aspect of Christianity. It doesn't matter. But there's a time of testing coming, and what the enemy is after, he's after your mind. So the Lord is coming, right? We're on this path. He's got our one hand, and the enemy comes on the other hand, trying to grab our attention. So what happens is that you're being pulled here and there, double-minded, right? So we have to learn, first lesson to learn on this path that we're walking up this up Mount Zion, is not to give in to the enemy. When he comes to put a thought in your mind, don't dwell on it. Learn how to use the shield of the Spirit, right, to repel that thought. Whether it's a sexual thought, whether it's hurt for somebody, a bad thought for somebody. As soon as the enemy puts into a bad thought in your mind to somebody, you're already shooting that person. That's how it works. So we need to learn how to block the enemy's attack. We're in this war, and the war is for our mind, right? And God's raising up a people. They're going to have a sound mind. They're not going to be tossed to and fro. They're going to know how to block the enemy's attack, and not to where it becomes automatic. As we learn to walk in our armor, right? Then we'll be consciously or subconsciously will be blocking the attacks of the enemy. It'd be instantaneous. We'll know where the attacks are coming from. We'll know this thought and that thought that are trying to come in to plant a seed in our mind to bring forth fruit of unrighteousness, right? The times we're coming into, you need to understand this, that times are going to speed up. And it's not physical time, but there's a time where the reaper overtakes the sower. And that's a lesson right there. So what's happening? The birth pangs are becoming more intense. So if we grab onto a thought and dwell on it, as we go forward in time, that reaction, that cause and effect is going to become shorter and shorter. And it's going to come to a place where people, if you grab onto a thought, you're going to bring forth the fruit of it right away, whether it's for good or evil. So that is, and this whole COVID thing, it was the Father's desire for His people to learn this lesson, right? Because God knows there's going to be another attack, and it's going to be for your minds. So we have to learn how to stand, just like Jesus when He walked across the water. I mean, there's waves on that lake, but as you begin to walk forth, everything became calm. and he was able to walk on top of the water. By, Peter tried it, and he had a little bit of doubt in his mind. He had a little bit of fear. He couldn't maintain his walk, right? He couldn't stay on top of the water, not for very long. But he did try. So this is the lesson that God's trying to teach us: learning to walk on top of the water, right? The circumstances are below our feet. The enemy is under our feet. And it all has to do with renewing our mind. And you can't do this. If you think you can do this without the Word, we need to read the Word, and that fills us with the oil, right? And to where the oil is what, when it burns, it gives off illumination. And so if we're walking in the light, we'll be able to see the path that's before us, because we are walking in darkness, but we're walking in a bubble of light, right? The glory of the Lord, it lights up our path, right? And that's what's happening. We're going into a time if we don't know how to stand, if we don't resist the enemy, resist fear, resist wanting to gossip about somebody. We have to learn to block our mind. And as we do, then we can use the sword of the Spirit to go forward on the path, right? We're blocking the attempts of the enemy to take us off the path or to distract us, right? We're keeping our lamp full. Every day we need to maintain our lamp to get the life of the Word, because Jesus said that His words are spirit and life, right? So we have to read the Word with an open heart. That living presence of the Word goes in us. It goes in. That's the seed that's going in our heart. And it's becoming illuminated so we could see the path. But you go a few days without reading the Word, what happens? The light starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller, right? The darkness is pressing in. Then the light goes out. Then you're in complete darkness. You're in confusion. You don't know what happened to you, right? That you've lost the love of the Lord in your heart. The lights, that Jesus cannot be seen in you because you allowed that light to go out. And it takes a lot of effort to get our hearts lit up again. So we need to learn to stay on the path, not to be distracted, but also learn to maintain our walk by reading the Word, being filled with the life, because the Word of God is alive, and to get that in our heart, right? So God's planting His seed in us to bring forth a transformation. Because I tell you, you latch onto that thought, it brings you right back into the wilderness. You haven't learned that lesson yet, right? Of blocking the enemy's attempts. Learning how to stay on the path, learning how to press forward. And as we learn to judge all thoughts that come into our mind, not to dwell on the things of the earth, but to keep our mind stayed on the Lord, that we will go beyond the enemy's weapons, right? The enemy's weapons have a limited range. You're shooting arrows, right? But if you rise high enough, you come to the place where the enemy is under your feet. You begin to rise higher in glory, right? You're being raised up into heavenly places. We're coming into a spiritual awakening. But our journey is to get to the top of the mountain. And the closer we get to the top, the greater the distractions are going to be, the more intense that they're going to be. That's the battle that we're going into, that we're going to see. There's going to be This whole COVID thing is a war for our mind, right? You're going to give in to the thoughts of the enemy, fear, whatever it manifests. Are you going to take the vaccine in order to feed your family, right? Fear will get you to do the wrong thing. So if we can learn to walk, not to give into fear, not allow our circumstances to dictate our decisions, but to stand in faith. So if we learn to not give into fear, we come into this place of unshakable faith. In order to survive the times ahead, if you're not standing in unshakable faith, then you're going to fall off the path. Some are going to be distracted. Others their lights are going to go out. They'll have no illumination. Others will roll back down the hill. Right? So we have to learn to walk in absolute faith. It's a realm that you begin to walk into by not giving in to fear and keeping our mind focused on the Lord. I just seen something flying around there with just a moth. But that's the lesson that I've just learned, still going through. Now I can see the path that's before me. This is how God would have me to walk. You can walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and no evil shall come nigh thee. Right? The battle's for the mind. Who's going to possess your mind? Possessed by the spirit of Antichrist? Fear's the door opener for that. Or learning to walk like Jesus. Jesus said he is the way, the truth, and the life. We need to learn how to walk in the way, to walk this path, in order to come into greater revelation that brings us to walking in the very love of God. That the Father's bringing forth the people where Jesus is going to be walking in them. And as they press in, they'll come into the fullness, the full revelation of the Son of God. And they'll carry the sword. God's bringing forth his, going to judge the earth, right? He's going to judge the church. He's going to judge the wicked. And God's raising up a people, a task force, that they're going to carry the sword of judgment. Right? These super soldiers of the Lord are rising up, and they carry the sword. How you receive them is going to determine whether you receive a blessing or you receive a curse. Because everybody that met Jesus when he was walking, they either received a blessing or they weren't healed. They stayed in their prison, their infirmity. And we're in a spiritual prison, right? The time has come. Are we going to take the red pill or the blue pill? We have to understand that the battle is for the mind, and that the enemy is trying to keep us captive in the matrix, right? And it's time to break free of the matrix by learning to eat the Word, to walk in the Word, to walk in the way, to become manifest the revelation of the Lord, to become vessels of his glory, vessels of his love. So wherever these sons, both men and women, walk, it's going to cause great controversy. Because that was the life of Jesus. Wherever he walked, he caused great controversy. Right? And this is coming. But they hold the sword. Just wrap up here. There's another quick lesson. When Jesus met Legion, they shouted out in fear, "Have you come before your time to torment us?" Is that going to happen at the last trump? Or are we entering into that time of judgment where the demons themselves shall be tormented and judged? I believe we're about to cross over into the kingdom dispensation soon, where the doors of the church, the dispensation of the Gentiles, that door is going to close. Right? We need to press into that narrow gate and enter into his rest. God has a rest for his people, and it's coming to rest in him. And in that place of rest, there is no fear. There's only unshakable faith in the glory of the Lord. Just going to leave it here, but please learn the lesson of how to block out, defend yourselves against the thoughts of the enemy, but also to rise up using the sword of the Spirit and press forward on the path and to maintain your walk daily. We need to maintain our walk, our lifeline with the Lord daily. Right? We need to be filled with the Word, the life of the Word, the Spirit of the Lord. That's what transforms us. This is Joshua Taylor coming to you, my little place here in Boston Bar, British Columbia, Canada.